And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting Australian Indian Radio's Facebook Live update. And it's Friday. Yes, it is Friday, and it is wonderful to have your company. It is always good to see you. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well, and I hope you've got some plans for the weekend. Well, we'll talk about what we can do in the weekend and what we can't do in the weekend in a minute as well. But first of all, let's take a very quick look at the weather, and we'll also look at the weather for the coming weekend as well to see what's up there, what's coming, and what we can do. So the forecast for rest of Friday is a maximum of 19. There will be few showers, possible rainfall as well, about 8 to 20 millimeters, and the chance of the rain, that possibility is up to about 90%. So Brisbane area will be cloudy with very high chance of showers, patchy rain becoming less likely this afternoon and in the evening. Winds southerly 15 to 20 kilometers per hour and tending southeasterly in the middle of the day and becoming light in the evening. So, with the winds becoming light, you might not feel that cold. Fire danger is low to moderate, but hey, as I've always do take precaution around fire. Sun protection is recommended from now till about 1:40, with the UV index predicted to reach up to 4. So what's it going to look like tomorrow for the Saturday? Hey, remember the old days when on Saturday used to be the market days? You went around to the markets, and it's a completely different feel these days, isn't it? It's completely different. Well, minimum of 15 and maximum of 21 with a bit of showers around tomorrow, and there's chance of a thunderstorm as well tomorrow. So that's the outlook for tomorrow. And Sunday, relaxing day with a minimum of 15, maximum of 23 with some showers and 95% chance of a rain, very high chance of a rain, and most likely in the morning and the afternoon, and the chance of a thunderstorm, light winds becoming westerly 15 to 20 kilometers per hour during the evening. So there you are. That's the outlook for the weekend. So, you can plan accordingly. Those kind of slightly cloudy weather, bit of rain and bit of thunderstorm, well, it calls for being indoors as is required at this point in time as well. But you can make so many things to do, during those times. And I'm not going to indulge in saying what, because everyone's different and everyone likes doing their own little things. But, in those kind of cozy days at home, there's so much that we can do. Well, right now, let's have a very quick look at the coronavirus cases. The confirmed cases so in Queensland is 1,074 with 1,063 recoveries and 6 recorded deaths. In Australia, the overall number is 13,319 with 8,653 recoveries and 128 deaths. Worldwide, yesterday we reached 15 million, it's 15.3 million today, and recovery at 8.72 million, and the deaths at 626. Well, alarming the thing is in India, but we will look at that a little bit later on. Well, let's first of all look at some of the things that have been happening here locally. So, as we know, yesterday there was so much that took place right here in Brisbane. But first of all, we'll look at the community forum that took place yesterday, and there was it was amazing. If you can remember that we always used to take part in the community forums organized by QPest and MA, which is the Multicultural Australia, which used to be MDA before, and now that those dinners have been seized because obviously of the COVID-19 situation, but our community forums did take place, and last night we had over 101 people on this Zoom meeting, as you can see from the slides, and it was such wonderful to see that many people joined in, and our guest, of course, was MP Cameron Dick, who's been in a lot of news even today as we talk. So let's hear from him what he had to say in this community forum.
And Multicultural Australia for the work they've done bringing the forum together. As many of you know, one of the greatest bridges to inclusion we have is building a strong economy. All of our civil and ideological aspirations, all the social capital we seek to build, have their foundations in a growing and dynamic economy. Delivery of vital infrastructure, access to quality, affordable healthcare and a decent education, the availability of frontline support services, all of those elements that inform the civilised ideal at the heart of our social cohesion spring from the financial dividend of our economic performance. History is littered with examples of the rise of resentment and persecution in times of economic hardship. Tolerance and acceptance are byproducts of prosperity. The understanding that the social and the economic are inextricably linked has been critical to the way I've approached the privilege of being the Treasurer of Queensland.
I do apologise for that noise, that's not me.
It's a portfolio that can drown you in numbers and bury you in graphs, which is why I keep front of mind that every number indicating a job loss or a business closed represents a hammer blow to the individuals affected, to those who depend upon them, and by extension, the broader community in which they live. Creating jobs is the number one priority of the Palaszczuk Labor government and the cause that drives me in my work each and every day. When we talk of the dignity of work, we are really talking about the dignity it embeds in the lives of working people, not just for what it contributes to a sense of social identity, not just to the positive affirmation that comes from earning your own living, not just for the material sufficiency it brings or the financial security it enables. Work is also the great equaliser, the key ingredient in our social fraternity, the most effective means we have of promoting cultural integration and building cohesive communities. In my office, I keep the first pay slip I ever received, containing 2 of the first dollars I ever earned. Now, you've got to be a fair age to understand what they are, but they are Australian dollar bills. They haven't existed for a while, but I've kept them. I kept them to remind me of the excitement that I felt on the first day of earning my own way and the feelings of satisfaction and empowerment that accompanied that first pay packet. It's also a reminder that there are too many Queenslanders for whom that is not their daily experience. Too many living with the quiet desperation that comes from looking for work and being unable to find it. It's a challenge that is greatly exacerbated for migrant communities and particularly those who've arrived as refugees. It's one thing to feel safe, but it's another thing to be able to thrive. Freedom from persecution is not truly meaningful if it merely is substituted for economic privation. Personal liberty is only truly attainable through full participation in the life of the nation, which is best activated through participation in secure and enduring work. We must also acknowledge that there are challenges, particularly for people trying to engage with a system that is not necessarily attuned to their language and their culture. I also think we should guard against presenting too bleak a picture or being too dismissive of the great work being undertaken in this area. A range of programs that I know our state government runs, and also the federal government, and also an enormous number of community organisations, the programs that they run, have been very effective in their level of engagement and the outcomes they have achieved for many of the most vulnerable in our community. There is always more that can be done, and I remain committed, both as the Treasurer and as the State Member for Woodridge, to looking at policy options to increase access to opportunity for those looking for ways to improve their lives.
And quite rightfully said there, and it was a wonderful gathering, and there was a lot which took place in the question and answer session as well. And it is good that that many people could join in, and that the Treasurer spared us that time to be with us, talk to us about all the things that the multicultural community and multicultural community organizations do out there within the community, and how many of these instances and many of these issues are quite different, and it affects every community slightly differently, and how the government is dealing with those kind of situations. Well, right now to a story of a different kind, a story of a little bit of pleasure and joy amongst everything, and my very good friend Fabadin Deliri, who has been in the news. Yesterday was the official launch of his kookaburra, as the kookaburra makes its way from Brisbane all the way to Townsville. Well, of course, the cause behind that is raising some funds, raising some awareness, raising some awareness about the new migrants, about the refugees who have come here as well. As we know, Fabadin has been together with me one of the People of Australia ambassadors, and of course Brad Chilcott, who will be leading White Ribbon, was another one of those. So these are the alliances, these are the contexts that we have built over the years, all very hard-working people and doing so much out there in the community. So these are the people who were chosen to be People of Australia ambassadors, and I was privileged to be one of them. Well, right now let's cross over to MA's office in Diddley Street, Gebba. So the giant kookaburra there, and everyone's getting together to have a very quick look and have a bit of a chat with Fabadin. And of course, the mini stage clip was there as well, and you can see Peter Foda and Palani in this shot there as well. And that's Fabadin himself, and it's wonderful to see so many people come together to support this wonderful cause. So here begins the formalities.
In-person experience. I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet today, the Yagara people on the south side of the river, and the Turrbal people on the north side.
Bill Comack from Multicultural Australia.
As a living culture, we recognise this land always has been and always will be Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander land and Torres Strait Islander people as we learn to live on their land. And we extend this respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with us today. We walk together in solidarity in the shared pain of the past and the shared hope for the future. As it starts this journey from Brisbane to the Townsville Cultural Festival, spreading a very important message of community, unity and harmony. The work of Dr. Farbiden takes enormous passion and commitment to an entirely new level to conceive and build by hand a monument such as this kookaburra and drive it across the state, spreading a message of welcome and hope. And when I spoke to Farbiden earlier this morning, he showed me some of the processes by which he built it, and it was very clear the passion that he has for the work that he does. It is a testament to the leadership and vision of Farbiden, who has dedicated his career to projects like this that support the diversity and inclusion of individuals and communities and brightens up the lives of many. Farbiden, you have received national and international acclaim for the giant kookaburra. It is now a national icon. I think we can safely say that. And it's a treasure that will be seen by thousands, if not millions of people. And it's a privilege to support something that brings so much joy and laughter to our communities, both here in Australia as well as internationally, especially as we emerge from COVID-19 and the impacts the pandemic has had on mental health and well-being. That's why we're proud in and Multicultural Affairs to give an official welcome on behalf of the Queensland Government.
Thank you, Bill, and I want to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which this wonderful event, joyful event, is taking place. But pause and note while we do that clearly the beautiful fauna of this land have been part of the storytelling of First Nations people for many, many, many generations. And it's wonderful to see that as part of this celebration, part of this event, we are seeing a further element of one of those totems of Aboriginal people being used as a further way of telling the story about how we can come together and how we can have joy in the opportunity of our lives and the great opportunity and blessing of the diversity that we share here in this nation and in this state. So I want to thank and acknowledge Multicultural Australia, the Townsville Intercultural Centre for your partnership for today's event, but I particularly want to extend my very, very warm congratulations to Barberton for his vision in being able to bring this giant laughing kookaburra to life and to have its wings and its laugh spread out over Queensland as it takes its journey up the coast. And it's I did apologise to Farverton a little bit earlier that on behalf of the Queensland Government, as the representative of the Queensland Government here today, I needed to apologise to him about the necessary docking of the kookaburra's tail so that it could meet roadworthy requirements. But as we all know at the moment, safety does come first, and safety is very important. And I know Farverton was very accommodating about that. As he said to me earlier, and I hope I'm not stealing his line, he said to me earlier, this is one of the only vehicles on the road that surely has tail lights. So this is a great opportunity to spread that joy, spread that commonality of our humanity through the association with this particularly Australian totem. And I
welcome everyone. I'm Jeremy. I'm the chair of the board of the Townsville Intercultural Centre. And whilst the kookaburra makes us laugh,
this has been a live coverage of Australian Indian Radio, and we will bring to you many coverages like this as functions and events start taking place.
That the mental health needs of people in those communities have been severely impacted, not just by the pandemic, but also by successive droughts, floods, cyclones, unemployment, and the list goes on. So besides having a good laugh with the kookaburra, we want to make a serious effort into making inroads into people's mental health.
And everybody's tired. But
and the man himself, man of the moment, Dr. Fabadeen Daliri.
when it comes to the encouragement, support, and energy that you guys are providing here, thank you. I have a lot to say. First of all, the traditional owners of this land, I am indebted to them for the stories, for the land, and for everything that I have enjoyed in Australia. The Honourable Minister Hinchcliffe, the honourable guests, the Multicultural Australia, particularly the executive, the CEO, Bill, as well as the staff, Tim, and I just want to say so many names, but I just don't want to lose anybody. But I'll have to mention my own team. Maureen has been very much covering my back. Our committee, led by Jeremy Odas, is just basically matchless in terms of the positive vibe and being together, united to do things which makes a difference. And many other names come to my mind, and I'm afraid to lose few, but I just try to think, give me a break. I need to say thank you, Karen Benson, because she also has been one of the burning flame of energy for a long time before, and then she has been part of my journey. I want to say thank you particularly to Karen, because there's few of you around that they are just like a hidden angels and always move and shake. Pili, Ramdani, thank you for your support in every way that you provided. Peter Forday, the chair of the Multicultural Australia, and my emerging friend who just jumped on the board only last couple of weeks, Paul Timms, who's just here, has come all the way. He's left everything that he was doing. He's one of the basically kind, true blue Aussie, who says, look, no, Barrett, we are going to do it no matter what. and people like him are the ones that they make my project successful, because that is the measure that do we connect, or are we just talking to each other as a couple of, few migrant communities? when we connect outside of our usual boundaries, then we know that we have done something that is going to perpetuate and sustain itself. It's not about being right or wrong, it's about does it sustain, does it carry on. And now I have to also say that there are a number of government authorities here, people, movers, shakers and policymakers. We often get punished for working outside of boxes. But where we come from in Townsville, top of the issues that we deal with, unless you start from the outside of the box, the connection is not there. Because those plans, those ideas that they are being basically formed up in Canberra and Sydney and Melbourne and then Brisbane, they do not connect to the regions as good as they think it does.
So we left that as this is now the smoking ceremony. The smoking ceremony to officially bless the Kookaburra as it prepares its journey from Brisbane all the way to Downsville. So this is the traditional owners of the land, and the Nunakal group is doing the official smoking ceremony. So and with that smoke, they're chasing away any evil spirits or anything. So the journey is without any incident, that it goes ahead as planned and without any obstacles. So it's trying to remove obstacles. This is the traditional method of the first people of this nation.
What I've just done there was called a smoking ceremony, and it's a sort of tradition that all tribes around Australia do. It's a cleansing, to cleanse out all the bad spirits and bringing in all the good nura, the good spirit. In our language for Kookaburra around the area, in the Yagara tribe, we call it Kakaru. Kakaru is the Kookaburra, and we believe if the Kookaburra follows the female, we believe that the female is Narragae, Mugali, pregnant. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
A part of the pay, as we know, because of COVID-19, they could not invite too many people. So the invited guests at the opening ceremony at the launch of the Kookaburra's long journey all the way to Townsville. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Australian Indian Radio, and right now, let's take a commercial break.
ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी 1989 से लेकर अब तक का विश्वसनीय और माननीय ब्रिस्बेन का रियल एस्टेट एजेंट है। उषा चंद्रा, जो कि ग्लोबनेट की डायरेक्टर है, अपने ग्राहकों को ईमानदार और एथिक सर्विसेज देती हैं। अगर आप ब्रिस्बेन की प्रॉपर्टी में पूंजी लगाना चाहते हैं और आप चाहते हैं कि आपकी प्रॉपर्टी को प्रोफेशनली मैनेज किया जाए, तो आप आज ही कांटेक्ट कीजिए उषा चंद्रा को। लैंडलाइन नंबर है 38654466 और मोबाइल नंबर है 0419775416। और आप प्रॉपर्टी की अधिक जानकारी और करंट अपडेट्स के लिए हमारी वेबसाइट पे लॉगिन कर सकते हैं। हमारी वेबसाइट है www.globnetreality.com.au। ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी आपका अपना लोकल रियल एस्टेट एजेंट है। हमारा पता है ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी, शॉप नंबर 5, 2281 सैंडगेट रोड, बुंदल, क्वींसलैंड। ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी, रियल एस्टेट इज अवर वर्ल्ड।
And real estate is the world. Well, right now, let's hear from our Prime Minister. This is an interview from the current affairs team, and talking about this current situation and of course the main thing which we will listen to next is from our treasurer, is the big deficit that's taking place and why and how it's come about.
Prime Minister, thank you for your time.
Great to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
A month or so ago, you probably thought that today's sobering figures, would be delivered to a nation that was getting back to work largely. Internal borders were open, everyone was looking to the future. And now with the situation in Victoria, that's certainly not the case, is it?
Well, that is exactly the situation, but I go back further. I mean, a year ago, we couldn't have contemplated, any of us, I think, the world we're living in today, and that has been the swift change and the terrible impact that has occurred, not just here in Australia, but all around the rest of the world. And we were doing very well, and I've got to say we still are doing very well. 7 states and territories, even in New South Wales where they're under pressure, they're doing very, very well. Victoria is obviously a different situation, and we feel for all of those in Victoria at the moment, and we're putting every resource into helping them and standing by them, whether it's the Defence Forces or our public health officials at a Commonwealth level. I'm speaking very regularly to the Premier and giving him every support we can. Australia doesn't win if Victoria doesn't win, and we've all got to win together.
Today's figures assume that Victoria's lockdown finishes in 4 weeks, assumes the best case scenario. Are you working on the theory that that's probably unrealistic now?
It's very hard to say. What I've learnt over this COVID period is it's very hard to make long-term assumptions. Situations can change swiftly, and you've got to be prepared to respond. So those figures we put out today are based on what we know today. What could happen 4 weeks from now, 3 months from now, could be very different. I'm an optimist, and so I'm hopeful that as the year progresses, we can get back on that same trajectory we're in sort of May, June. So we've done it once. Even within the COVID pandemic, we can do it again, and I know Victorians can, so that's why I'm encouraging them to hang in there.
I think Australians want some certainty. I think they want to know how their lives are going to look next year. I don't know if it's an unrealistic question to ask you, but you're probably the best person to ask. Do you know?
No one knows. But what I do know is the goal that I have and what I'm working towards. And I do want Australians to feel more safe in their jobs, more safe in their health, more confident about the future at the end of this year than they are today, just as like I wanted them to be more confident several months ago. And I remember when the pandemic first hit, even as difficult as our things are now, they are better than they were several months ago. Even in Victoria, where we're going through another wave for the rest of the country. I mean, in Victoria many months ago, the whole country was going through that process with no real understanding potentially of how the virus worked and what it could mean and what the fatality rate would be. I mean, back in March, April, we were thinking about tens of thousands of people within a month contracting the virus and many thousands of Australians dying. Now, that's what we were planning for. We've built the health system up. We've put the ICU beds in place. We've got the masks. We've got the ventilators. So even now, with the situation in Victoria, we know that our health system can cope with it.
And the message there from the Prime Minister is that our health system is capable of handling the situation as it is. And it is quite, I think he handled all the questions there quite well. You can go on site and have a look at the full length of that. As we know, in this segment, we just bring you glimpses of and the key points from most of the news that is available on the public domain. But the point that he made there was, no one can predict, and so that's why there are things that have been made and changed. And one of the questions that he got asked was, would you like to see the JobKeeper everyone extended? So he said, a decision will be made closer to March there as well. But when the mini budget or the deficit was announced by the Treasurer, what was the reaction there? So let's go to that conference and when he made that announcement.
Questions. And we'll be happy to take some questions. In December last year, the Finance Minister and I stood together in this building and delivered the mid-year economic and fiscal outlook. It followed the first balanced budget in 11 years, the largest legislated tax cuts in more than 20 years, and welfare dependency was at a 30-year low. Australia's economy was growing and jobs growth was strong. Today, we stand here in a very different world. Australia and the world are now experiencing the most severe economic crisis since the Great Depression. What is primarily a health crisis has devastated economies worldwide. In the last 40 years, The global economy has contracted only once. That was when it contracted by just 0.1% in 2009 during the GFC. The OECD is now expecting that the global economy will contract by 6% this year. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, is expecting 157 economies to contract this year with unprecedented falls in many. The United States is expected to contract by around 8%, and the euro area by around 8.75%. The coronavirus crisis has led to unprecedented economic support to the tune of around $11 trillion. Here in Australia, the Morrison government has deployed $289 billion in fiscal and balance sheet support, the equivalent of 14.6% of GDP. Our economic strength going into this crisis has given us the financial firepower to respond.
And quite rightfully said that the financial resources that the government had, and as he started when he began about the balanced budget that they had, and of course on track, and this year would have been quite different if it wasn't for this pandemic. Well, do you understand the difference between a depression and a recession? When, okay, right now let's take a very quickly, because we're running out of time, very quick look at finance, and let's try and understand this recession.
To finance now, the Australian dollar edged a bit higher today, and so did the local share market. Here's Alan Kohler.
The distinction between recession and depression is ill-defined and subject to argument. But economists generally say a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP, while a depression is 2 consecutive years of that. Well, here's Treasury's new forecast. 2 consecutive years of negative GDP, minus 0.25%, followed by minus 2.5%. So it's a depression, not a recession, although, of course, it's just a forecast, so it could be wrong. But here are some of Treasury's other forecasts. Private sector demand, minus 3.5%, followed by minus 4%. Dwelling investment, minus 10% and minus 16%. Business investment, minus 6% and minus 12.5%. These are shocking numbers, so it looks like a depression, all right. Here's Treasury's graph of official and effective unemployment, as they put it, which should be renamed not real and real. And here's a comparison chart of debt as a percentage of GDP. Now, Australian government debt, including today's forecast at the top, still among the smallest. We are world beaters in household debt, which is the bit in the middle, because our houses are so expensive. The Australian dollar rallied a bit after the fiscal update and is currently sitting at 71.5 US cents.
So yes, it's a depression and not a recession, as was discussed. And if you can look at the Aussie dollar, US 71.5 cents, and Japanese yen 76.7, New Zealand cents 107, Euro cents 61.7, British pounds minus 56.1, and TWI 61.9. So that's for the finances. I'd like to finish off today with the key message from Prime Minister Modi ji in his address to the summit.
I also congratulate the US IBC on its 45th anniversary this year. Over the past decades, the US IBC has brought Indian and American business closer. US IBC's choice of this year's summit, Idea Summit, building a better future, is also very, very relevant. Friends, we all agree that the world is in need for a better future. And it is all of us who have to collectively give shape to the future. I firmly believe that our approach to the future must primarily be a more human-centric one. Our growth agenda must place the poor and vulnerable at the core. Ease of living is as important as ease of business.
Ease of living is as important as ease of business. A great message there by Prime Minister Modi ji. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's about all we have time for today, and it's been wonderful having your company. Make sure that you have your weekend all planned out. I mean, if it wasn't for the current conditions, but if you are Queenslander, you can still have a lot of places to visit in Queensland, as our Premier says.
Bay is probably the whale watching capital of Australia. This region was also listed as one of the first whale watching heritage zones in the world. Before COVID hit, about $500 million was spent each year in this region. We know that our operators have been hit hard during COVID, so today I'm very pleased to announce that we will be waiving the whale watching fees for the tourism operators right across Queensland for the whale watching season. This is equivalent to around $6,000.
Many of the boats are family-owned businesses, so this support by waiving the fees will significantly help them this year, because we know that tourism faces challenges.
The Fraser Coast has really come up the scale in the last few years. It's gone from number 9 to number 5 holiday destination for Queenslanders. This is a place where you can holiday like it was when maybe you were a kid.
And right now, let's finish off with upcoming events for the weekend. And some of these are ongoing courses and classes that do take place. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any function or event that you'd like to talk about, we'd like to, have included in this program, we will gladly do that. All you got to do is just contact our office and we will bring you on. And if you have any topics that you'd like to talk about, we'd love to have you on the show and discuss topics which are of community interest. And as I've said before, that the show that we put together is mainly from now. India Day Fair has been put on hold at the time being, and we will bring you further updates as the situation progresses. Of course, as the Premier and the Prime Minister have said, the health comes first. So, taking into account all the health concerns, I think the committee has made a very, very good decision to put on hold for now. Mental health matters, which is very, very important as well. There's that walk that's going to be taking place. All these functions and events you will find on our website. And also, don't forget that today the EDM will be going out. So if you haven't subscribed to that, please do that. And make sure that you have picked up your copy of the Brisbane Indian Times, which is out and about. And don't forget that coming on to the weekend, there's so many wonderful radio shows that all our presenters put together, especially during the weekend. There's some amazing shows that have been put together by all our presenters, and I'd like to thank each and every one of our presenters for taking time out to put together the shows. Difficult as it has been during this time, not being able to come to the studios, but it's still compiling the shows and sending those ones in. It's so good to see. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd say goodbye for today. It's been wonderful having your company. It's always good to see you. So I hope that you have enjoyed this show. If you have any feedback, I'd like to hear from you. And stay safe and be good.